Hey there, Facebook, YouTube, and Insta world. Well, I think actually we're only going Facebook, YouTube, and maybe Twitter or X at this point. Regardless, we're on
Yes,
all the apps that actually
correct.
matter, I suppose. What's going on, guys? It's your boy EJ. The Knights are back at it. It's been quite a long time since we've done this, so it's been really good to see both these boys' faces again, at least in a
Absolutely.
virtual setting. And we
True,
can kind
true.
of come together and talk a little bit about what's gone on this year, man. It's been a crazy year in content. We got so much to cover, whether it's from Marvel updates, whether it's what DC has cooking, and we have some offshoots like House of the Dragons. That's kind of been interesting. We're actually getting a finale tonight that I'm going to be watching right off stream, so no spoilers there for people who are watching it right at 9 o'clock. And of course, there's Invincible, The Boys. Like, there's just so much that's been going on recently. We can't wait to dive into it with you guys and share some of these moments. And apparently, me and Dieter might have some disagreements, particularly about the logo for DC. And
My, you guys.
Gonna happen.
I know, right? It's so crazy.
no
I thought we were
way.
going to come together and agree on
There's
things,
no
but
way.
Oh no, we're gonna.
Dieter
throw
told me
hands.
behind stage, behind the scenes, that there were some issues he had with some of my takes, and I can't wait to dive into all of them. But before we do all of that and get all WWE on each other, how you doing, Dieter?
I'm sad, man.
What's
I'm
up?
sad.
What's going on?
This is what's up. This behind me. For those who aren't in the know, today Shonen Jump dropped the last chapter of My Hero Academia. And I cried like a baby when I read it. It's really, really good. I highly recommend it. I had been waiting until we kind of knew that the manga was ending, because as soon as I got into the manga, I wasn't going to be able to put it down. So I was like, I want to get as close to the whole story as possible. So about 2 months ago, I started reading it. I read all 400 plus chapters, and got myself caught up. Just the finale is so good. The epilogue is so good. It made me feel feelings.
Man, that makes me almost want to get into some anime. I've been the one holding out of this crew. Obviously, Josh being the anime expert, you kind of being, kind of dipping your toes into the water, seeing how it feels, right?
I've been slowly increasing the depth. I finally caved and got myself a Crunchyroll subscription in the last
There
6
you
months.
go.
There's no half measures. When I go, I go. And I've been watching like stuff that's all over the map in terms of genre. Like, I watched Kaguya-sama: Love is War. I watched Toradora, but I also watched like Bleach and how did you say it was pronounced backstage, Josh? I've been pronouncing it
Marshall,
but that's not Marshall.
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 It's like
Marshall,
but just not as harsh. Marshall.
Marshall.
That's how I've heard it.
Marshall muscles.
I don't
and
know if you're
magic.
watching. Did you watch the English dub or did you watch?
I watched the dub. Yeah.
Yeah. So that's how they were pronouncing it, as far as I could tell. So
Yeah.
that's what I've been running with. Marshall.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I've been staying at animation. I mean, you know me, I'm not necessarily an animation live action like snob. I love animated content. I just haven't necessarily dipped my toes totally into like anime. The closest I've gotten is The Last Avatar, which hardcore like anime fans have told me with no uncertain terms that doesn't count. So maybe this year that's something I can do to kind of relate to you guys a little bit more,
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, the jury's out on Avatar: The Last Airbender. Depends on who you talk to. By the letter of the law, strictly, no, it's not an anime, but it's a fantastic show, and it belongs in the same categories as some of the best animes that we've seen. So
It's true.
Absolutely. And I want to check in with you tonight, Josh. How you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm doing real good, man. I moved a while ago, in January actually, and we've had so many different things going on at the Knights, in our personal lives and all kinds of stuff going on. But this is kind of exciting and cool because this is my first stream from the new place. So very excited to be able to do
there
that.
with all your Funkos and stuff.
Yeah. I still have more stuff to hang up, and over here you can see my stacked piles of MTG cards, and got some deck boxes here, and sometimes during the stream, because I have ADD or ADHD, whichever one, I like to shuffle the cards while I hang out with you guys. So
I get that. Live. Didn't have these the last time we did this.
That's true. That's true.
Yeah.
Well, the biggest change is that both me and Josh.
So
let's go, buddy. Weight loss. The biggest news is that me and Josh are both now officially in our 30s.
That's true.
Men now. Yeah.
We are. We are officially in our third decade of life. Yeah.
All our old injuries are coming back. I tried to play some pickup football today. Tell you what, younger EJ would have been disappointed in my performance. I dropped a wide open touchdown. I played basketball. My family went on vacation last week, the week before, and they have a basketball court at this campground, and I was dribbling, shooting around a little bit. I'm like, my goodness, like how much harder is it to move into takes a lot
stand
more
up
strength
and jump, and move faster than a walking pace, Is anybody watching this that's like 40, 50, they're so disappointed right now. They're like, you have no clue, young whippersnappers.
Like you have no idea what you are.
So there was one task. It was close, right?
You do not
Josh,
know back.
You would know this, but I was doing like a out pattern, right? And we were close to the touchdown, and the guy threw it over my shoulder, and I had it on my fingertips. And old EJ would have kind of, because he was trying to get over the defender, so old EJ would have definitely pulled that in. New EJ just,
dropped it. Yeah, it's you. You've been watching your Tampa Bay Bucks too much, man. You've been watching Mike Evans. That's a classic Mike Evans move right there. I'm wide open. Let me just get my fingertips on it, but not quite bring it in.
Wow. I thought we agreed no Mike Evans slander on this chat. But
we did. I don't remember agreeing to that. That's crazy,
implied.
Bro. I don't.
It was definitely implied
at all. Implied.
Oh, also, me and Josh went to a Blink 182 concert. We have to.
Yes, that was a good time. That was a really good time. Yep, Fenway Park in Boston. Yeah, Fenway Park. We had a really good time. We were there with our wives. EJ's wife is also my sister. For those who don't know. So yeah, it was a really good time. We got an Airbnb, hung out. It was a really, really fun time. But yeah, we're excited to be back. We're excited to be pumping out some shorts for you guys and kind of changing our content a little bit and doing some lives. We've been toying with the idea of doing some kind of a podcast, video podcast, upload to YouTube and all the other sites. And so we're kind of exploring some new things. And EJ, why don't you tell the folks about some of what we have been doing and some of what we're kind of planning to do coming up here in the future?
No, for sure. So over the past 6-7 months, me and Dieter were just talking about this. We're both millennial YouTuber enjoyers, I guess you would say, right? Where we got into YouTube where it was huge when people were doing the video essays. Now I was just talking about our gentleman. What's his name again, Dieter? The guy that was doing the
FD Signifier.
Kendrick.
Great video essays.
Great video essays, and there was ContraPoints before, and there's just so many of those people who are doing these long form content. Although that's still something.
I don't know why you're saying this in the past tense. They're still out there. FD Signifier dropped a 3.5-hour video about the Kendrick Drake beef. 2 weeks ago. Knowing Better has got a video that's like 5 hours long about the Seventh-day Adventists coming out next week. Like, the video essayists are still out there. It's just the YouTube algorithm hates them.
Yeah, no, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that we're enjoying it as older millennials, whereas the new generation is hopping online now, the Gen Zers, they definitely enjoy more TikTok-like content. And it took me a while, but over the last couple of months, or particularly the last 2 months, we actually did do a lot more of these shorts. Me and Josh kind of hammered down, and Josh did a really good job of getting a lot of these things out. And I would just go over a weekend and just record 10 or 15 of them and give them to Josh to see what we could do. Got a little bit more success that way. And, I want to thank all the fans out there that are listening because, at this point we're at 1,682 subscribers, which is quite the hit, a big jump of 65 subs in the past month. And for the first time, we're actually getting a little bit of payout. So we finally hit that threshold after 3 long years of doing this, where we're going to be getting a bit of a payout for the first time. So
I haven't seen a goddamn red cent. I don't know what you're talking about payout.
Well, we'll wait to see.
Well, that was awkward.
something.
EJ glitched for a second there, and it was just an awkward silence.
I know. I really thought I pissed him off there for a second.
I know, right? I'll just leave. I'll be like,
I'm
running away with all the money, all $120. But yeah, I mean, right now we're just getting paid in smiles, but it was cool to actually get some revenue off of a lot of our hard work. So we'll continue doing some of this long form content. I know Dieter, does a heck of a job in putting together a lot of these essays and these little, tidbits about kind of what's going on and kind of comic book history. Josh has done great in animes. Me, I'm your local Batman and Snyder guy, so I always give you these types of longer form videos. We're still going to do that. We don't want to get away from that. I think we enjoy that from an artistic and kind of a fulfillment perspective. Like, it really puts a lot of joy into my heart when I do those types of videos. But we don't want to just overextend ourselves from a time and a money perspective, so we're definitely going to be putting out some short stuff to kind of say, hey, you fellow kids, we like TikToks too, I guess.
Just like that. That's how we're gonna say
exactly like Perfect. That. So yeah,
so whole stream just dedicated to making me feel old, because that's what we're doing.
Well, I feel like that's a personal issue. I've aged gracefully, but the sparks are flying already. So I want to talk about some of the content that we did put out last 6 months, I guess you would say, that really kind of interesting. I put out the first, to start off the year, just from our long term, I put out our Watch This Before You Watch Sonic Prime video. I'm probably the only person here that watches Sonic Prime. I know it's mostly for younger audiences. Sonic is one of those creatures, or one of those IPs that has multiple different creatures, right? One of those IPs that has like a lot of different sides. Like if you read some of the Archie comics, stuff like that, Sonic can get very mature. And Dieter, I know you know this because you've read some of those.
I had a subscription to Sonic and Archie comics when I was a kid. It's a genuinely true story.
Yeah, exactly. So like they can be very mature, and Sonic can also be a little bit more juvenile, something that's a little bit more accessible to younger audiences. I enjoy Sonic Prime. Wasn't necessarily for my age group, but I enjoy what it brought there, the Easter eggs it kind of gave out, and just kind of the callbacks, stuff like that. It was kind of a multiverse type of thing where Sonic was kind of hopping from universe to universe, where his friends were cosplaying as different characters or different tropes, and it was cool. I really enjoyed it, and every time we put out a video like that, it does very well. We also talked about Madam Web, which almost no one does that. Doom, we talked about that. Doom was pretty cool. And Dieter, did you do the X-Men 97 video? Or did I do that? I think I did.
I don't know why I didn't do the X-Men 97 video. I think somebody in a production meeting swooped that up before, and they were like, no, you go do your weird Like a Dragon video. I'll take care of X-Men. I'm like, I've been reading X-Men since I was 10 years old. You're doing X-Men 97.
Oh man. So who's watched all of X-Men 97? Is it just you, Dieter? I know I started. I didn't finish it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I started the original cartoon from the start because I watched it as a kid, but it was, Saturday morning cartoon, whatever. Like, it was very broken. I didn't have the chance to catch it from start to finish. So I'm trying to fix that now, but there's more to it than I thought there was. I forgot, there is a fair amount of episodes, and I'm watching it myself. So obviously I have stuff I watch with my wife, my brother and his girlfriend who live with us. Like, we kind of like watch some shows together. So I'm like squeezing the time in here and there to check it out. But once I get through that, I definitely want to watch 97. But yeah, go ahead.
97 is a masterpiece.
Yeah, that's what everybody says. I mean, everywhere I look on, you can't find a negative post about it. You know what I mean? Like, it's the reviews and just the love for it is outstanding. So it motivated, because I love the X-Men, but watching some of the old 80s and 90s cartoons, as a grown adult, can be tough sometimes. But the hype around the show was so high that I'm like, I got to do it. I got to go back and kind of revamp and remind myself the story, the characters, and what was right about the original and what was wrong with it. That way I can experience 97 and really see, okay, what did they fix? What did they do well? What did, so on and so forth.
I think
Sorry,
it's a
I kind of went off on a
shame.
tangent.
Oh, it's all good. It's all good. I think it's a real shame that Bu DeMeo was removed from the series for whatever reason.
Yeah.
I mean,
Sorry,
I follow him on Twitter. I really enjoy just him talking about the show. I've always liked people who don't just
who is that
they're
you
golden.
referencing?
Bo
DeMeo,
DeMeo, so he's the guy that
was
directs-
the head writer and showrunner of
Yeah.
X-Men 97. He was unceremoniously removed from his position just before season 1 aired. And what was weird is, unlike another certain recent firing on the hands of Marvel Studios, where we knew exactly why they were being fired. Hi, Jonathan Majors. How you doing? Glad you're enjoying the stream. No one had any idea why Bo DeMeo was removed. He just all of a sudden was, and he's not. He's mostly not been shady about it. He's been really supportive of the show, tweeting
Talks
out a
about
lot
fans.
of stuff about his behind the scenes. We do know that he was kept on at least long enough to write the scripts for season 2, but somebody else is
that's kind of the
over
bones.
season 3.
Gotcha.
Yeah. So again, I've watched the first couple episodes and never finished it. Unfortunately, life got in the way, but I do plan on it. So far, it's really good. And again, he is a huge Snyder guy as well, so he gives a lot of callbacks to a lot of Snyder's movies. So that's all it takes for me to at least check out your stuff. I'm like, Snyder guy. I peek around the table, around the corner. I'm like, hey, all right.
Yeah.
Well, let me watch some of your
cult,
things.
right?
Yeah. What's that meme? Is it who is it? I forget who it is, but it's the guy. He's going like this. He's looking at his chops, looking around. I can't
He's an
remember
old football
who
player.
that
I forget
is.
his name. He's like a retired football player. So
yeah,
he does like Facebook comedy now. But no, I mean, regardless of that, I think he did a really good job. And I love that he interacts with fans online as well, just chatting with them and telling them where he gets inspiration from this. He showed them which comic he thought of this from, or like this scene or whatever. It was inspired by this X-Men scene in the Fox series, or there's a certain scene in there that was inspired by a scene in Man of Steel, etc. Right? I really enjoy just kind of sitting back and kind of being able to see, peek behind the curtain, see, hey, how did you put this together? Right? So the unfortunate thing with Bo DeMeo is that a lot of people think he was probably removed because he had a fan, and not, one of those fans that are onlys. And so there might have been some content on there that Disney may not have been enjoying. So it is what it is. He can't monetize on. Speaking of which, we have to do a little bit of an apology on that end, right, Josh?
Oh yeah.
Great segue. So,
Uh,
Knights of the Nerds table.
is Dieter not even aware of this?
No,
Dieter might
what
not
did
even
you
be
guys
aware.
do?
Almost got into
Oh, it's not me. It's not what I did.
a different industry. Yeah.
It's not what I did. It's what I fixed. It's what I saw
What
and
happened?
fixed.
Yes.
So,
Obviously, because of time restraints, we had to go ahead, Josh. I'll let you do it.
no, it's okay. You could tell the story. It might be funnier if you tell it, but then I'll just correct you when you're wrong.
Okay, that's fair. That's how we like to roll with it anyway. So obviously we were getting out a video about The Boys, the next season of The Boys, and I had to get that outsourced, of course. Now I told them to blur or put out anything.
Outsource the editing. Outsource the editing.
Outsource the editing.
Yeah.
Videos are written by us. Editing is occasionally done by Josh or EJ, but frequently outsourced. Just so you know.
Yeah, and unfortunately, our guy over there, he's overseas, had 2 scenes where he didn't blur it entirely. I was in a rush to put the video up. I didn't catch it, and neither did YouTube. And so for a whole second there is a male member on the screen, even though it's only for like a brief second. And there's one other scene where you can see a, top part of someone kind of in the back. And me and Josh have
dude.
we're trying to be cool about it, because we still want to.
Yeah, we try to stay remotely, family friendly.
Does that mean I have to stop fucking swearing?
I mean,
PG-13. That was your one.
You can
That's
try. You can try.
But so we had to take that video down. I think we did put it back. We just had to blur those parts of it. But we thought it was incredibly funny that just happened, because Obviously completely unintentional. YouTube didn't catch it, so we're good there. But like, it was just something we were like, oh no.
Yeah,
it was up for a second,
was posted for like a full probably like 12, 24 hours, somewhere in there, before I saw it. And I clicked on it to watch it once I had, time to sit down, because I try and watch our videos, especially when they're ones that I didn't edit. I try and watch them with a closer eye, I guess.
Yep.
And I was watching it and I was like, whoa, that can't be there. And then I kept watching. I'm like, oh, that can't be there either. So I messaged EJ. I was like, EJ, we got to take this down right now. Like right now. And so I took it down, made it private. And then it took me a while because I tried doing it with the YouTube editor and was having a bunch of issues because they have like a blur tool. And then they also have like a cut tool, but it wasn't working out for me very well. But eventually I was able to comb through, and there was multiple things, whether it be for nudity, or if you've seen the show, if you're familiar with the show,
it's not for the faint of heart.
It's rugged.
Yep.
So there was a lot of different parts, whether it be violence or nudity, that I had to blur out and edit out to try and go under the YouTube guidelines. So that's our fun little story, I guess, is that video made it up there and nobody said anything about it. I saw it and was like, yeah, we can't do this. We gotta fix this and make this right.
He decided that we need to have morals, and I guess that's cool and all.
I decided that, but so did YouTube. So
exactly. So it was fun, but we apologize if anyone was offended. But if you're watching The Boys, you know what The Boys is about. So hopefully we didn't offend too many people.
I should actually mention that's something that's happened since our last live. I watched a season of The Boys.
Hey!
There you go.
I know I swore I never would, because as a general rule, I'm not super fond of Garth Ennis. I find him to be a hateful, vitriolic, just unpleasant artist. It's not like he's got like any like skeletons in his closet or anything that I know about. It's not like this guy's like Warren Ellis or something like that, someone who's just like always groping women in the office. He's not a bad guy. He just really hates superheroes, and philosophically I don't jive with his work at all. But I don't know what happened. I was just like, I don't have anything else to do today. I'll put on season 1 of The Boys, and I watched it, and I gotta say, it's a lot better than what I've read of the comics.
Well, the comics are terrible.
The comics are
not good. Terrible. Yeah, and it was so funny. So I actually put up like some shorts about the comics, and people were kind of crying about it. Like, well, I don't like they switched this in the comments. It's like, I don't know, buddy. I think that overall, like, the changes that they've made in the show have made the material more consumable. And I haven't read the comics myself. One person, he said, you didn't read the comics, bro, so how do you know? But the thing is that I've been told those comics are bad. And
that's a great way to form an artistic opinion. I was told it was bad. So
I not only that, they were just not well regarded at the time, to be honest. And from what I've heard as well, if you can even imagine, The Boys was even worse. Like in the comics, like some of it was actually pretty darker than what even The Boys can put on television at sometimes. And yeah, all the changes they've made so far have kind of made sense. Specifically, what they did with Noor. I don't want to ruin too much for you.
Yeah.
But in the comics, Noor was like this copy of Homelander. That was a dumb storyline. I'm glad they did not do that this time around. So I think what's also been interesting about The Boys is that The Boys has been very this was the first season of The Boys that was not rated as well as it has been in the past. A lot of it because of some of the political references that they make in the show. So a lot of people felt they were being a bit too political. As someone who's watched the whole thing,
because the first season was subtle as a hammer.
Correct. It's very in your face. If you don't know what this is about already, then you've kind of missed the boat at this point. It's incredibly on the nose as far as what they're referencing, and to the point where the last episode that happened recently had a political figure that was assassinated, and because it was so close to when unfortunately candidate Donald Trump had gotten a similar occurrence, they had to put a warning right before the episode saying, hey, this was not because we planned this or anything, but like, this just happened the way it did, So the fact they had to do that, to me, says that they're kind of hitting things on the nose in regards to our political climate, and we could use some of their commentary because I think it's very interesting, Their references to pop culture, always great. Like, I love the fact that they did later, I don't know if it's this season, but they did before, they did a parody of Gal Gadot's like Imagine thing.
Oh,
where they
yeah,
had
they
random
did that
celebrities
in
come in and
season
stuff like that.
3, if I'm remembering correctly.
Yep. Like they're hilarious. They did it. They did a version of the Snyder Cut, Dawn of the Seventh. They did a lot of things that were kind of cool, and I enjoy the show very much. So I even said in my short that I enjoy The Boys better than Invincible. I think that overall, even though they're both on Amazon, they're both deconstructive takes of superheroes. I think they're both very good, but I enjoy The Boys more because I feel like they give a little bit more realism and a little bit more references to our worldview. Whereas the story of Invincible is more about Mark and how he's becoming a superhero rather than political commentary.
Right.
But I'm pretty sure both of you will probably like Invincible more. Like, I think that your personalities fit more with that.
I'll put it to you this way: I am all caught up on Invincible, and I am about 3 seasons behind on The Boys. So
I'm not caught up on either one because I'm 30 years old and I work for a living.
First of all, you're not 30.
We don't.
We just discussed this.
EJ and I are also 30, but we don't work for a living, so that's why we're able to watch these shows.
They're the idle rich,
Yeah. See, what the truth that the people don't know is that EJ and I went in on a lottery ticket 5 years ago, and we won millions of dollars, and we've just been, living off those millions secretly. They say that, when I win the lottery, I won't tell anyone, but there'll be signs. These are the signs right here. We started a YouTube channel, and I've spent time watching shows to create content for that YouTube channel. So those are the signs.
Use me as unpaid labor. How fair is that?
Yes.
Well, Dieter,
workers
I was
rise up. You have nothing to lose but your chains.
No, we need to build our money off your back. You know how this works, Dieter. We need a caste system.
Well, you get what
the story I was gonna.
If we're not stepping on anybody, how are we going to get to the top?
Deets.
You got to get up there somehow. You got to get to the top. My favorite thing because
you need stepping stones. I was just watching this movie with my nieces, and it's the Incredibles. I finally got that line where his boss goes, "What about our shareholders, Bob? Who's helping them out, huh?"
Can I just tell you the number of times that I've had conversations, because I work in the insurance industry, and the number of times that I've had conversations with people and they're like, "Oh, I bet you're like the Bob Parr at your company," and I mean, yeah, kind of. I kind of am. Like, that's generally how I go about my business. But also, I love that that's like the cultural touchstone for our entire generation of like, the good insurance worker is Bob Parr, like being like, I can't tell you to do this, but you could consider doing this. It's like,
because as a kid or as a young adult, I didn't get that joke, but now, after working in the insurance industry, we've lived it. We've lived it. How many times we had someone from problem resolution come up to us and say, "Hey, you did this, you can't."
Yep. Oh, yeah. And then I say, "Oh, well, I did."
Yeah.
Unfortunately, we couldn't punch anyone through walls,
Yeah.
What a great movie. What a great movie. Which is a great way to go into this next segue, our next feel of things. So there was a movie that came out recently, and there was a lot of hype to this movie, Dieter and Josh.
Twisters. Is it time to talk about Twisters?
Twisters.
First of all, the original movie Twisters,
Out 2.
I love that movie. That too, great ones. But this movie had a little bit more weight on it, right? This movie not only had to bring back 2 beloved characters and make sure that they honored a trilogy, 2 movies that came before it, while at the same time resurrecting the genre of the superhero theater experience.
I don't understand.
Because-
Captain America: Civil War came out years ago.
Yes, but we have to do this again. The world is always in danger. Commerce is always in danger. The theaters, of course, are always in danger, particularly post-COVID. That movie, of course, was Inside Out. I'm joking. It's Deadpool, of course. It's Deadpool. Deadpool 3. Deadpool and the Wolverine. Wolverine and Deadpool. Whatever way you switch it around, right? We've been waiting for this for the longest time, right? It's not just the fact that this is the third movie in the trilogy. It's not just the fact this is the first movie that's under the Disney label rather than the 20th Century Fox. It's not just that this is the only MCU movie we're getting this year, but we also brought back probably the best, I'll say it, the best superhero actor of all time, Hugh Jackman, to play a version of the Wolverine. And somehow, this needed to have enough cameos to be cool, but not too much to take away from the story. It needed to be multiversy, but not too multiversy, on the nose, but this and that. There were just so many tricks with that movie. And I will say we're going to go into a spoiler discussion. So we're going to talk about a couple of things, not going to go too much, right? But
whoa.
First of all,
I have notes saying that we're talking spoiler free first and then going into
Yes.
spoilers.
Correct. That's fair. That's fair. I
So
described
we're currently
it
in
wrong.
the spoiler free section.
So if
of
you
the
haven't
show.
seen the movie yet,
Not for long.
this is good, right? This is good. Later on, we're going to talk a little bit more about it and get into some of the details, but we just wanted to talk about what we thought about the movie. Did it do what it was supposed to do, and all that good stuff. And to put this off, Dieter said he has
Can
some
I just
thoughts.
ask about spoiler
Go for it.
free real quick? Does it count as spoiler free if we talk like rant a minute? Marvel, the whole Marvel marketing machine, they're out there, they're doing the good work. Less than a week before the movie comes out, they spoil Daphne Keene's cameo. That is spoiler free. That was an official marketing material. So what I have just advised you, if you didn't know Daphne Keene was in the movie, you can't get mad at me. It's in the trailers. That's fair game as far as we're concerned.
Yes.
But then, on Twitter, on Thursday night, all the Marvel accounts are saying, shh, no spoilers, don't spoil it for anybody. And then, at SDCC, they have, I want to say 90% of the big cameos from that movie that nobody saw coming come out on stage at SDCC. How is that keeping the secret? That's what I want to know.
It's not. It's not. It's just it's a. I'll tell you exactly what it is. It's Marvel posting the no spoilers because it's a PR stunt. It's like no spoilers. Yeah. Okay, we did what we were supposed to. We checked the box. We told people, hey, don't spill the beans. So now you can't get mad at Marvel when someone else spills the beans. And then Marvel was like, actually, we're just going to spill the beans.
So what you're saying is we are doing a better job of spoiler maintenance than
correct.
Marvel.
Cool. Correct.
But
also,
I also heard, and maybe this is a rumor. Yeah. I also heard that, and maybe this is just a rumor, that someone by accident has sent a copy of this movie to Tom Holland, and they knew at that point that it was only a matter of time before it got out, so they had to kind of, get ahead of it.
I don't know. No comment.
That's what Grace Randolph told me, so it must be true.
As the resident Tom Holland enthusiast, no comment.
no As the resident Grace Randolph hater, no comment.
Team Holland and I have discussed the situation, and we have decided that we would like to elect not to make a comment at this time.
So I'll start off with you, Dieter. Tell me, how did you feel about this movie? Did it do everything it's supposed to do?
So I was the one who did the video for this one. Which, if you are a loyal fan of our channel, you already know that. And I said this movie had like 4 things that it had to do. The first thing was push forward the whole multiverse saga. And I argued that asking this movie to be like majorly relevant in the story of the multiverse saga, it was not only like way too much to ask, but also foolish. And I'm going to be basically quoting verbatim from my video here, but the developers at Firaxis, who did Marvel's Midnight Suns, which is an excellent Marvel superhero video game that if you've not played it, you should. It's really, really good. Noted that the reason that they did not include Deadpool in the main roster, why they saved him for DLC, is because Deadpool has a very bad habit, of overtaking any plot that he's involved with. As soon as Deadpool's on screen, it is the Deadpool show, and everything else gets shoved to the sideline. So if you were expecting to make this movie and have big strides forward for the multiverse saga, or if you were going in as an audience member and expecting it to really push forward and give us new details about Kang or the new big bad, which we'll talk about later, that's foolish. That would be foolish to go in. So that left us with the jobs of just saying goodbye to the Fox universe and also just being a good and satisfying movie in and of itself. And to that end, I do think it did exceptionally well. I mean, this movie was pure popcorn. This was not going to change anyone's lives. This was not pushing the form. Although I did see recently that a lot of stuff has come out about the behind the scenes stuff and the creation of the film, and I was really, really surprised to see how much practical effects work was actually in this movie, and it's really, really cool to see. But outside of that, this was not going to be like Late Night with the Devil, where everyone was talking about this is like the next new big thing in its genre. It's just going to be a fun movie, and to that end, it succeeded. It did give me closure on the Fox universe. I talked in my video about how I've been watching the Fox X-Men movies since they came out, basically. I remember in middle school, every day I would run to the school library and I would check the official X-Men The Last Stand website to see what new stuff had come out about that movie, like watching every sneak peek, every trailer. And I really appreciated that at the end of the day, this movie and every Deadpool movie before it had a real sense of earnestness underneath it. And in the first movie, it was a romantic comedy. In the second movie, it was a story about generational trauma. I talked about all this in the movie, or in my video. And in this particular instance, this was a movie about underappreciated films. This was a movie about the fact that just because a movie doesn't come out well, just because it's not a movie that we like, it doesn't mean that work wasn't put in. It doesn't mean that there weren't hundreds of people working on it who were passionate about it. And it doesn't mean that that movie is any less worthy of appreciation. And I really, really appreciated that message. We'll talk more in the spoiler section about exactly what I mean by that. But I thought in a climate where we are constantly always judging movies based on how much money they're making and like, oh, what's the box office going to do? Oh, did Marvel finally flop? It was nice to see a movie that was just like, hey, these flops, like, they were made by people who did on some level care about the craft. And maybe it wasn't to your taste, but it doesn't mean that it's worthy of derision. So yeah, that's my thoughts about the movie.
No, I love that, Dieter. I think you put it together really beautifully. What I'm going to do here is I'm going to have Josh go ahead and talk from a spoiler-free perspective. After that, you guys are getting your warning. We are going to dig into some of the cameos, stuff like that, some of the nice things that are about it. I'll kind of kick that off. We'll kind of go around after that. So, Josh, if you want to play a little bit about what Dieter was saying and kind of bring some other insights. One thing, me and Josh actually went and watched this movie together because I was in up north where Josh is at. Watched at this old theater in New Hampshire. It was kind of cute. Like, it wasn't a Regal or anything like that. But it was a great experience. I think we really enjoyed our time there. Josh, tell me a little bit about kind of what you got from this movie and kind of what your thoughts are overall from not just this movie, but the genre as a whole.
I really enjoyed Deadpool 3. And I guess the biggest things that really stood out to me from the film was that they did a really good job. I found, like, within trilogies, right? And not just Marvel, but across the board, you have so many different franchises that have attempted trilogies. Maybe they made it to 3, maybe they didn't, whatever. But it's really hard, especially because you had the thing where movie 1 was a big hit, right? It was way more successful than the money spent on it, so to speak, right? And really blew a lot of people away. And then they did the second one, and again, they're like, okay, they did it. But it's like with each next step that you take, there's that worry we as the consumers have come up with, like, how can they do this again? Because they need to do what they did before. They need to be at least that good, but they also need to find a way to take the next step, because they can't just provide the same thing that we've already seen. They can't just, plateau, do the same flat line. I need you to hit this mark, but I also need you to take it up a notch for this next one. Exactly. Yep. And I think they did a good job of that. And I said this in the little short that we did outside the theater, EJ, but I really like that Deadpool's able to laugh at itself, able to laugh at so many different things, because there's a lot of things in my life, like anime is a really good example. I love anime. I love watching anime. I think the themes that are in it are amazing. I think you can learn a lot from them. I think the art is beautiful. Like, there's so much to like about them, but there's also so many things that just make me laugh because they're so stupid and so goofy and just ridiculous. But it's part of what I enjoy because it's making me laugh at how silly or ridiculous it is. And Deadpool does that really well. And I think that this third installment of it balances it really well. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and it was Matt Damon and Casey Affleck were being interviewed. They have a movie coming out, and they were being interviewed on this podcast. And Matt was talking, I used his first name, him and I tight. Mr. Damon and I. Yeah, so Matthew was talking, and he was saying how when he was younger and his sort of, Boston crew, him, Ben Affleck, etc., those guys, when they were younger, when you would make a movie, you made the movie and you hoped it would be successful, of course, and you hoped that it would be successful enough so that you could get more work after that, but you were kind of just doing your thing. The whole world of like box office numbers and how much money was spent on this movie versus how much was it made, he was like, that wasn't on any of our minds. We weren't talking about that. We weren't thinking about that. But the world has gotten to this point, this place where it becomes an EJ. I'm going to call you out a little bit here. You're the king of the box office. Every time we talk about anything, your first point, whether it's good or bad, is like, well, here's what it did at the box office, or here's what it didn't do at the box office. And that our whole world has kind of turned into that. And it was really interesting to hear it from the perspective of an actor and close friend of mine, such as Matt Damon, his perspective on what it's like and what it used to be like. And I think that has taken, we've talked a lot. We even did a whole live stream where we were talking about, okay, superhero fatigue, how do we fix it? How did it happen? All these things. I think this is a big part of it, is because we have been able to consume so much so fast that our appetite is not refined anymore. And it's like, we're just given so much so quickly that it's difficult for us to take stuff in. And I feel like a lot of these things, when we first watch them, we're like, oh, terrible, flopped at the box office, and we move on. But you didn't actually try and watch it yourself to see if it was any good, to see what did you think about it, And you also, like, a lot of these things.
The number of people who didn't go see the Marvels in theaters, and I was a big proponent. I was like, this movie looks like it's going to be super fun. Like, it looks like it's going to be just a nice breath of fresh air. And I went to go see it. I loved it. It's a great time. The number of people who didn't go see it in theaters because they were told, oh, it's going to suck. Oh, it's flopping. That means it must not be good. And then when it got to Disney Plus, the number of people on Twitter being like, why didn't anyone tell me this is good? And it's like, babes, we tried. And I do think there's an aspect of this whole superhero fatigue, like blockbuster stuff, that is astroturfed. and for those who are not familiar with the phrase, astroturfing is a term used in political science to describe movements or ideas that do not come about through the community naturally. It is essentially you have
inorganic
agents or operatives. This is going to sound way more sinister than it is, but like the idea that you implant ideas into a community and make it seem as though they are grassroots, make it seem that they are rising up organically, when in reality there are individuals or corporations at play that are really pushing these ideas through marketing or whatever it may be. Like I say, it sounds really sinister, and I don't use it in the sense of like, oh, there's a conspiracy, but at the same time, I do think that it's important to note that so much of the conversation around superhero fatigue and around box office numbers comes from the way that it's being reported on. Like,
yeah,
all these reports about how the box office numbers are doing are coming from things like Variety and The Hollywood Reporter and stuff like that, right? Those are trades. Those are trade magazines for people who are in the industry who need to track industry business. But that's not how they make money. They need to make money from getting other people to come in and read their articles as well. And so when the stuff that is really just only for people who care from the perspective of, I actually have money riding on this, when those articles disseminate into the public consciousness, all of a sudden everyone's thinking about it, but nobody should care. It does not matter. I promise you. If you're one of those people who's like, Marvel's did badly at the box office, Deadpool is the best at the box office, you don't have any money riding on it. I promise you. How much money it's making does not matter. This is not a football game. You do not need to worry about what the score is. You just need to worry about whether or not you liked the movie. And so it's really warped our cultural consciousness about how we perceive movies as successful. They're no longer successful just because they were good. They're successful because line went up, which is very frustrating.
See, I like what you said there, and it's so funny that you mentioned that. I talk about the box office stuff quite a bit, mainly because it matters is whether if the franchise is going to continue or not, unfortunately. That's really my biggest thing when I talk about that. Yeah, that's why we don't get as many cool rated R movies anymore. You know how back in the early 2000s we got these crazy, wacky Vince Vaughn led movies where you would just have a lot of just random people get together and make a movie? That was kind of.
I remember that they existed. I never saw any of them.
Yeah, Wedding Crashers was probably the height of it, but they weren't great. But those movies don't get made as much anymore because they don't make money as much as soup stuff. And again, we love soup stuff as well. But I think there is something to be said of, the market did get a little oversaturated to the point where I don't think oversaturation was the point. I think we were putting out, not we, of course, but the studios are putting out subpar content, things that they didn't care about. There's also this cynicism. If you go on Twitter or X, whatever they want to call it now, there's this cynicism that comes with movies, and there are a couple movies that didn't even have a chance right out the box. Like, there's some movies that deserved it, but some movies weren't even given a shot. Like, there are reasons as to why a movie like The Flash did not do well. Let's be honest, we were making fun of that movie for months, years, on Twitter. We were already downing that movie before.
We were predisposed, and when we talked about it too, like on our channel, on lives and whatnot, we all agreed, like, unfortunately, this movie kind of now needs to be the greatest movie that's ever been created for a couple of reasons. Number one, because we're all making fun of it for being delayed over and over again and all the drama around it. And number two, because you put out and declared some famous people stating that it is the greatest movie that they've ever seen, and it's incredible. So you set yourself up to where, like, this needs to blow my mind. My life needs to be changed forever after watching this film. And obviously it fell short of that bar. Most movies do, It doesn't mean it's a horrible movie. It just means it wasn't life-changing. But again, it had things going against it. And earlier when I was talking about the issues of how we ended up getting into this section, there's obviously like the oversaturation, but there's also, like, and we've talked about this, there's the global pandemic we had, there's the huge wave and move towards streaming. There's a lot of things happening, but what I really appreciate about
SAG-AFTRA strikes as well.
Yep.
Right.
Strikes
exactly.
a lot, particularly the Marvels.
What I really what I really appreciated about Deadpool 3, my last thing I want to say about it before we get into spoilers, is I liked that it, as Dieter said, it was trying to call some of that out. I really felt that in the movie. It was trying to point towards some of these things, as Dieter was saying, that underappreciated movies or films, or, and again, we'll get into it more, but just giving some things, some people, sort of some light that I feel like definitely was deserved. And I remember reading an article, I don't know, I didn't fact check it, but it sounded interesting. It was basically just saying that Ryan had come up with like something like 100 different versions of this movie before they eventually went with Wolverine and Deadpool. And there was like just so many like crazy ideas. And one of them was doing a shot for shot remake of Thor: The Dark World and just putting Deadpool in different areas and like making, you know, like his perspective of the movie known. And it's interesting to me because that movie in particular, right, is one of the, if not the most criticized of the MCU films. It's one of the ones that I feel like whenever anybody's like, hey, which ones have not been good, which ones fell short, that's usually at the top of most people's lists. So it was just interesting to hear that kind of perspective.
And Man and Wasp: Quantumania are usually the first three people list.
Oh, yes. They're forgetting the huge. I mean, speaking of the Thor franchise, they're forgetting the biggest sticker of them all. Number 4.
Love and Thunder was not.
No, you're a liar because I could pull up the receipts. You liked that movie when it came out. I could.
No, I didn't.
Receipts.
No, I didn't.
I could stream the receipts live right now if you really want me to.
No, you actually misremembered. I actually defended Dark World because I think Dark World.
No, you did not talk trash on Thor: Love and Thunder until later, until other people talked trash, and then you jumped.
Dieter, you have to back me up with this, even though you may not agree with me.
I'm pulling up the receipts.
You know, I've been a Tahiti.
I do have a memory of one of the first things EJ said. No, hang on. Nope, that's your brother. I'm thinking about your brother.
No, but I've never.
It was either you or your brother. I remember your brother saying about Ragnarok. I hated Ragnarok so bad it made me like Thor 2.
That was my brother. Okay. Yeah. So Ragnarok wasn't the one I didn't like.
Right.
Ragnarok,
you didn't like Love and Thunder. I don't remember when that started. I don't remember what our conversations around that were because it was a long time ago. All I know is I will remain on the hill that Love and Thunder, while it was, in my opinion, not as good or refreshing as Ragnarok, was a fun, delightful movie with some really, really dope cinematography in the middle. And honestly, the only thing that I wasn't super there for was the goats. Like the goats went a little too long for me.
It was way too many times. He was just indulging himself too much. The green screens were terrible. I just think he's
that's a thing that
we're getting off track.
I can never be trusted to comment on special effects because what's my favorite show in the world? Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Like good special effects, bad special effects, I don't care.
That's fair. We're not gonna get too far.
Talk amongst yourselves. I'm watching our Thor: Love and Thunder stream for a minute. I'm pulling these receipts up.
Well, while that happens, EJ, should we talk about the spoilers? Should we talk about the others?
Before we get into that, absolutely. I want to give the crowd a little bit of a break to kind of know we're going into spoilers. Because because I know Josh was talking about his good friend Matt Damon. That's obviously in jest. However, I want to actually talk about some semi-famous people that have followed us on social media recently. So this is a little bit of a break for everyone. A little bit of a break for everyone.
How dare you?
You don't want to hear spoilers, but real quick, I just want to show this to people because this is just super cool.
I just wanted to know that I did not agree to this or in any way consent to this weird clout chasing that EJ's doing right now.
Oh, not even clout chase, just kind of cool. So one of my favorite players of all time, Gerald McCoy. I've followed him since college. He was a Sooner, a Buccaneer, like one of the best Buccaneer players of all time. We were chatting back and forth about the Snyder Cut in particular. He actually followed us back on Knights of the Nerds Table, which I thought to be really cool. The other gentleman that actually followed us, I don't have it pulled up here, was the voice actor of Eggman, Dr. Eggman in Sonic, Mike Pollock. He follows a lot of people, so not
Yeah,
not too interesting. But it's really cool that we've had some people notice us on Twitter or X or whatever it's called now. So just one thing I wanted to throw out there. I was going to mention that in the beginning, but forgot about it. Back to the spoiler part, because I think that is what's going to be super interesting. I know we're going to be fighting anyway as it goes. Whoops. Let me go ahead and take this down.
We're also apparently somehow being followed by the guy who played I can never remember how to pronounce his name.
Yeah.
Famous Star Trek actor.
I actually have no idea how that happened, either. I really don't. I don't. That just happened out of nowhere. Yeah. So, making some moves here. It's kind of interesting to kind of have that out there. So yeah, we're gonna go to Deadpool 3 spoilers to just kind of wrap things up on Josh's end. I think what he's remembering is that I was really excited that our video about Thor: Love and Thunder did very well. If you remember, that video actually was our first one that kind of did very well for us from a views perspective. I think we got like 7,000 or whatever. So I think he's misremembering my excitement over how well that video did.
Is there anything you can't turn into just talking about how good our numbers are?
Yes.
Stop
wanking
yourself
I'm a salesman.
Let's talk about Deadpool.
I'm a salesman. You know this. I can't help myself. But yes, I think that's probably what it was, because I think that was our first one that did well. But the movie itself, I think, is probably one of the top 5 worst MCU movies. But the great thing is, they just put out one of the best movies of all time, in my opinion, in the MCU.
This is a very good movie.
Deadpool and Wolverine was a love letter to the 20th Century Fox characters. Now, I know Spider-Man...
I saw someone on Twitter pointing out how many people have used that phrase to the point where it sounds like we're being paid to say that. To be clear, we're not being paid to say that.
No, that was actually my first out of the theater reaction. Like, if you look at my reaction, that's the first thing I said. Oh, this is a love letter to that thing. I hadn't even read any reactions yet, so
yeah,
maybe they're stealing from me and that TikTok. Who knows? Yeah, absolutely. We're the originals. But yes, it was a love letter to that time period. I think a lot of people give credit to, which credit is due, of course, to Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man and Sam Raimi's Spider-Man in the early 2000s to really pushing the superhero genre on us as a serious art form that can be done well and can also be a blockbuster success. But X-Men doesn't get nearly as much credit as it should. Yes. The series was very uneven. You had great movies that came out. You had great performers like Hugh Jackman as Wolverine. Obviously, Professor X was done very well. Magneto. You had a lot of people who were just really good actors.
Characters? I'm just testing you. You were like Hugh Jackman and then no other names.
Yeah, for some reason it was Ian. I couldn't remember his last name out of nowhere. I was like,
Patrick Stewart, Ian McKellen.
Yep, there you go. Those guys, those beautiful men right there. They just had such a good back and forth. And that series as a whole, like, there were some good movies there, but there were some really bad ones. We know The Last Stand. There were a couple other ones on there.
I will die on the hill that X-Men: The Last Stand is better than people give it credit for.
Oh, and now you're dead. But at any rate, there were a lot of movies there that were kind of uneven, but they kept going. And they really, for me, it was a universe I always enjoyed no matter what. There's not a movie in that series that I hate. Maybe the one where Ryan Reynolds makes his first appearance. I can't remember which movie that was in.
That would be X-Men Origins Wolverine, one of the worst movies I've ever seen.
Yeah, that was
at least on a yearly basis.
You shouldn't.
I love that movie with all my heart. I will, unlike Last Stand, I cannot defend it, but I will. I literally do watch it every year.
It was sad. The misinterpretation of Deadpool as a character, the Merc with a mouth had no mouth, which was odd, you know?
Though, when they were in the writer's room putting together X-Men Origins Wolverine, the writer who did that thought that they were a genius. They were like, it was fully that moment in Deadpool 3 of I'm Marvel Jesus. They were like, I am the best writer ever. We're going to take the guy that everyone expects to talk, and we're going to have the bad guy sew his mouth shut. Amazing.
We had the best casting ever in Ryan Reynolds. We had everything set up for this to be interesting, and all of a sudden you just made it not interesting. What I will say, I think the best movie in that series is Days of Future Past. Come to think of it, I think that's my favorite one. Yeah, Days of Future Past, and of course, Logan. Logan, of course, is really solid. But no, I mean, it was great that we were able to kind of get into that. I'll only spoil a few. I'll spoil my favorite cameo. I'll let each one of you kind of at least grab one before we go in there. All right, go for it.
I have an update. Cameos.
The Thor: Love and Thunder update.
EJ, I just watched the receipts. You're correct. Yes. So at the beginning, which, wow, all three of us did this live stream together. By the way, this was the first time I saw Dieter's haircut after his hair used to be down.
Oh, that's right.
The bottom of his back.
Yeah, had shoulder length hair.
This is really fun, by the way. You guys should do this every now and then. Just go back and watch an old live.
go live.
This was super interesting. So, anyways, at the beginning of it, you like it, EJ, but the more, I mean, I sped it up and was kind of trying to find where you really nailed down how you feel about it. So at the end, we all gave our ratings. We ranked all the Thor movies in order, all that. So towards the beginning, you were about it. You were like, yeah, pretty solid film, right? But the more we talked, and you literally say this in your final rating, you're like, yeah, the more I'm thinking about it, this movie just didn't do it for me. And you ended up giving it a 2 out of 10.
Champ, lad.
That's an EJ Minta move if I've ever heard one.
Yeah, but very much in the beginning, like you're like chill about it, and it's funny because I feel like this does happen with you a lot, where you feel kind of one way or the other about something, and then we have the conversation, and that usually like rockets you one way or the other. So you're like, you might start kind of a little lukewarm, and then we're having the conversation like, actually, greatest film all time. We've been talking about it, been thinking about it. Greatest film I've ever seen in my life.
Cinema peaked here.
right. But then we talk about other things, and you're like, yeah, it was decent, it was alright, it was solid. And then the more we talk about it, you're like, nah, 2 out of 10.
2 out of 10. You gave Thor: Love and Thunder a 2 out of 10.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I would have understood a 5. I would even have understood a 4. You gave it a 2?
Yes.
Jesus, EJ.
I think it was deserved.
You guys want to watch this clip? It's funny. Here, I'll pull it up. Hold on.
Let's do it. Let's go back in time. Into our multiverse. We're going through like the wormhole or whatever, going back in time.
It's to make it more relevant, it's Kitty Pryde sending Wolverine back in time.
Yeah.
All right, folks. Let's do a little time traveling, all right? Let's do a little time travel.
What a handsome guy. Love the haircut.
He's talking about Dieter, obviously.
Oh, God, I don't.
He wouldn't just talk about himself like that.
I actually am talking about Dieter because remember he had a haircut.
So you guys have heard my reasoning about this movie. I'll be honest, the more I think about it, the more I dislike it. The more I'm just not satisfied. I'm giving this 2 shields out of 10. This movie doesn't know what it wants to be. It needs about 30 or 40 more minutes. It needs a lot more time to cook. The jokes were in there, but the jokes weren't super funny. Ragnarok was funny. I laughed multiple times during Ragnarok, even when I didn't think there should be laughs.
I can't wait to take clips of this and like put them in a later video down the road. But that quote right there is definitely getting put away and stocked away somewhere where it says,
"I thought
Ragnarok was funny."
Shiny new editor, and I really hope they're watching.
So yeah, this movie just it doesn't do much for me. These are wooden performances for the most part.
What wooden performance? God, that aged like
cooking.
Milk.
Cook, buddy, cook.
Overcooked is what you are.
This is awesome.
He is in the kitchen and he is cooking.
Oh man, that's fun. We could do a whole stream of us just reacting to our own live streams and just laughing at our awful
the most
opinions.
Just self-involved. I cannot be involved in that.
Right.
Anyway, were we talking about Deadpool?
Too good. Yes.
Sorry,
I had to share that with the people. I was wrong. Hand up. I was mostly wrong. I was wrong. Hand up.
Yeah.
Receipts found.
Close enough to wrong that we have to say EJ was right. Josh was wrong.
I didn't say EJ was right. I said I was wrong. I did not say EJ was right. That's a very important distinction I very much would like to make.
All right. So guys, on August 4th, 9:14 p.m., Josh did say We'll bookmark this.
That I was wrong.
Listen, man. You know what you're right about, though? That this movie was awesome. Deadpool and Wolverine was the best multiverse movie since No Way Home.
2 out of 10.
Yeah, should we do that, guys? I got this graphic ready to go.
Yeah, let's do it. Let's do it. You know what?
Let's run it back. It's been a long time. I'll remind you guys. I have swords. EJ has shields, and Dieter has gauntlets. But then we debated about it because Dieter was like, "Wait, I have what?" And we're like, "Yeah, like didn't we talk about this?" And that's literally this line.
That's in the, yeah, I do remember that conversation.
Yeah. So you have gauntlets until you decide carriages.
I'll take gauntlets. It's fine.
I'm giving it 8.7.
What's the jousting thing? The javelin?
Lance.
Yeah. Lance. Lances? You want some lances?
My gauntlets is
some
fine.
lance passes?
I've grown and matured and I don't care anymore.
So the cameos were cool, right? I think.
Sorry, EJ, what was your rating? I'm going off the rails here. What was your rating?
The cameos were cool. I'm giving it 8.7.
Okay.
8, I'll give it an 8. I'll give it a solid 8.
Yeah. The reason why, look, the cameos were cool. My favorite one was Wesley Snipes. I was not expecting that, mainly because Wesley Snipes famously did not get along with Ryan Reynolds in the third Blade movie. Like, that was very obvious.
Yeah, but you got to remember, that's 20 years ago. That's a long. And he also, that's enough time to bury a hatchet.
Yeah, but I know Wesley
know
Snipes. Wesley's a big grudge person, just in general.
So I saw a clip of an interview. Someone was asking him, like, "Hey, how did this all come to be? You guys hate each other, blah blah blah." And he described it, and he's like, "Yeah, Ryan texted me, and I was like, sure, if you can get it done, I'll be there." But he even says he's kind of chuckling and laughing. He's like, "Yeah, we kind of been pretending to hate each other the last 10 years or whatever. It's a big joke or something like that." And who knows? Maybe they've been totally fine for a while now, and it's just been more fun to let it ride as is. I would like to think that, or I guess I shouldn't say like to. I believe it's probably kind of refreshing as someone who's famous and under the public eye a lot, that when people are wrong about something insignificant like that, to just let them be wrong instead of constantly correcting and constantly being like, "No, actually, let me tell you how my private life and how my friendships and relationships are, how they are." I think maybe there's probably some novelty to be like, that's fine. They can think we hate each other. That's no need to correct them. Like, we know where we stand. It doesn't really matter what the public thinks. So that's my 2 cents on that.
I agree with that. What I've heard about Wesley Snipes personally is that he's a grudge guy, so that's why it doesn't surprise me. It wasn't.
My good friend Matt Damon said he's not that bad, but
yeah, well, great for Matt. Let me go hit up Gerald and see if he has any hints as to what happened there. But like, what I will say is that like, I enjoyed Wesley Snipes because I didn't think he was going to be there. His movies were huge as well in bringing up the genre in superheroes. In fact, a lot of people would say Wesley started it. Even though the credit usually is given to Sam Raimi's Spider-Man, a lot of people say Wesley Snipes. That's actually the beginning of the modern superhero era.
First Blade was 1999. It
correct.
Was before both X-Men and Spider-Man.
Exactly. So a lot of people would.
But for some reason, it doesn't get the credit. I wonder why.
No. He's black, but anyway, but anyway, yeah. Just to repeat myself, I mean, it really was a love letter, and the other cameo that, of course, enjoyed and people have seen. This one was one that was spoiled for me. If you're gonna go see a movie like that, don't go to X first because Twitter ruins everything.
It's true.
Henry Cavill as the Wolverine. The Cavalry. And what this movie proves that just because you're starting a new universe doesn't mean you have to disrespect what came before it, even was an uneven, inconsistent universe that a lot of people did love. So I think that joke where Deadpool says, "Oh, we'll treat you better than the guys across the street," aka Warner Brothers, I think that makes a lot of sense. So I gotta give Deadpool 3 and Disney the credit of really giving that universe a send-off where I don't feel like there's anything hanging there. I've done what I need to do there. I'm still sad. Of course, it's sad about the DCAU, but like the DC not DC, sorry, X-Men universe, the Fox universe, to me, there was just a lot of cool stuff there, you know? So there is some sadness when they played that last video in the end credits. I hope you had the time of your life. I felt something.
That was so freaking cliche. So, spoilers for the end of the movie. After the movie ends, during the credits, they air a series of footage from behind the scenes of many of Marvel's movies, including Fantastic Four, Daredevil, Elektra, Fantastic, and obviously the X-Men movies. And it is all set to Green Day's Good Riddance, I Hope You Had the Time of Your Life. And the minute that started playing, the minute they had that dun 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 dun, I just audibly groaned in my seat, and I was like, they are not doing this. And then the more I thought about it, the more I was like, you know what? As cliche as that is, those lyrics do apply. It's something unpredictable, but in the end, it was right. The pre-MCU Marvel movies were a Wild West. On one side, you have Ang Lee trying to do an art film with, Hulk. On the other hand, you had whatever Jennifer Garner's Elektra movie was, and we'll talk about her in a second. You never knew what you were going to get quality-wise. You never knew what you were going to get from the story. Was it going to be super faithful? Was it going to be more kind of Bryan Singer-esque, where he's like trying to really downplay the comic-ness of it? Which, by the way, hey, screw Bryan Singer. If you know, you know. But at the end of the day, looking back on it, is it nostalgia? Sure. But looking back on it, I'm thankful for what we got. And I am thankful for the steps that those movies took so that the MCU and whatever James Gunn's universe is going to be called could run. Like, I said this in the video. Do you want to know what movie did multiverses and alternate timelines first? That would be Days of Future Past, my friends. Yep. You want to know what movie did a superhero period piece first? X-Men First Class. What
about a team up?
All these. The first team up.
Yep.
I think I'm still gonna give that to MCU. I'm still gonna give that to Avengers.
They had solos that kind of was spun off from their launching pad, which is different.
There was never a big team up movie. The closest
X-Men
you could say to that
up.
would be Days of Future Past, which combined the Matthew Vaughn cast and the Snyder cast, or the Singer cast.
Two completely different people.
I gotta say, I don't know that I'd like it, but I would watch a Zack Snyder X-Men movie. I don't think I would
Wolverine
enjoy it, but it would be something very unique.
I think Wolverine in particular, if he had any project, and Hulk versus Wolverine would kind of be an interesting project. All he needs is a good writer to make sure that he kind of stays on track a little bit, doesn't get too sidelined with some of these interesting plot points. But if you have, like, from a cinematographic perspective,
did you just almost insult Zack Snyder? Did you almost say a negative word about Zachary Snyder?
I think he gets very excited about a lot of different things. He doesn't wrap up.
That was a yes or no question, sir.
Correct. Yes. Yeah. yes. I'm feeling a little critical today. I don't know what it is. You guys got me talking about Thor: Love and Thunder, and now I just have this, critical vibe. Now I'm looking into everything kind of closely. But to wrap up my thoughts on this movie, I mean, all these things were really cool. I want to let you guys kind of talk about the rest of it. But 8.7 shields. The only criticism I'll give is that at the end, I felt like it dragged. I felt like they didn't know how to, like, put a bow on it, and it kind of kept going and going and going. And I was like, all right, we're doing too much here. We're trying to Deadpool this, Ryan Reynolds this, improv this too much. Let's kind of step it back and kind of wrap this up, because we're hitting all the plot points here. You're doing a little bit too much there. That's my only criticism of this otherwise wonderful and beautiful film. Thank you, Ryan Reynolds. Thank you, Hugh Jackman. Thank you, 20th Century Fox and Disney. You guys rock. But yeah, go for it, Josh. I know you haven't talked too much about it. Let me go get Josh in real quick. His spoilers thoughts.
I'm going to give it an 8 swords. And honestly, I agree with you, EJ, about the ending. I remember sitting in the theater and sort of thinking to myself, like, you know how when you see a trailer and you kind of get certain scenes like locked in your head and you're like, okay, I wonder when this is going to happen. And I remember sitting in the theater and being like, wait, the movie's still going and we haven't seen Ladypool yet. And they've alluded the Deadpools multiple times and we haven't seen them. I know they're here. I know they're coming. I haven't seen them yet. And so I do remember having that thought. That being said, I wasn't like, oh my goodness, can we get to the end? Like, it wasn't awful. It did toward a tinge of like, oh, we haven't done this yet. And I'm worried that it'll be sloppy and just sort of thrown in. And it was like, hey, we alluded to this, we talked about it, but here we go. But that is probably the best way to do it because, again, there was already so many other things that you really had to hit, other moments that you had to really give their time to breathe. So I think if you had dragged that out too long, it would have just made the problem worse than it already was. A couple of cameos that I want to mention that I don't know if they're mentioned or not. I had to take my headphones off and shut my window, and I was also trying to prove EJ wrong and instead proved myself wrong. Did we talk about Channing Tatum yet?
We have not talked about Channing Tatum
Have
yet.
we talked about... Okay, so I love Gambit. I have loved Gambit for a very long time. Just a very cool X-Man.
It's because you're a man of taste.
Yes, thank you. And I don't know, it's something with playing cards, especially when I was a kid. Like, the fact that he has the powers that he has and he chooses playing cards more often than not. I mean, obviously he uses other things because he can, but the fact that he chose the playing cards, that just sort of added to his, his character and his sort of, makes him kind of like a mysterious kind of magician, I guess. That definitely appealed to me as a kid.
Do you like close-up magic?
Yeah, magic is sick.
I'm a huge fan of magic. I think there's something to be said about that. Like the liking Gambit to really liking like close-up card magic pipeline is very strong.
Yeah, no, that the optical illusion kind of stuff and like the card tricks. I remember there's been multiple times, like I was at my family's house once and I think we had lost power or internet or something. We were kind of all hanging out and I was like, hey, I'm going to teach myself some tricks. So I Googled some tricks and learned some like quick, easy ones and then like showed my family and like we all had a blast with it. And some of them I kind of flopped a little, was like, give me a second to look at my phone, but I was like trying to, teach myself in the moment and I just had a lot of fun with it. But yes, definitely that's part of the process for me. And we all know that Channing Tatum has wanted to play Gambit for a long time. There's been so many rumors. There's been official announcements. Things keep getting scrapped, pushed back, all these things. So he finally got a chance to play Gambit for the MCU on the big screen. Will he get his own movie? I don't know. Would I watch it? Absolutely. And the fact that his accent that he did in Deadpool just saying what we were all thinking, where he's just like, I don't know what that guy said, but
you need to apologize to your dialect coach.
Bro, that was so meta. That joke in particular.
Yes. So I thoroughly enjoyed that. Jennifer Gardner, we alluded to that. I'm a Jennifer Gardner fan. I really enjoyed the show Alias, which is what I know her the best from, the most from. But I like that movie. To be fair, I haven't seen it in a really long time, but I actually like that Daredevil movie when I watched it.
So I was going to comment if nobody
12?
else did. The Daredevil movie starring Ben Affleck, it warrants reevaluation, particularly the director's cut. If you ever get a chance, go back, try to find the director's cut. Yeah.
Did you say director's cut?
I did say director's cut.
Oh, you know how I love me a
Snyder
director's cut.
It's okay. The director's cut is fantastic, and Michael Clark Duncan as Kingpin did not get the flowers he deserved in life. So, God damn it, I'm gonna evangelize for that man from the grave until God takes me up to heaven, because Michael Clark Duncan in that movie was so good.
Oh yeah, and also J.J. Abrams, if I remember correctly, did Alias. I watched Alias years ago. I haven't got back into it, but I completed that years ago. That was a really good series with Jennifer Garner. I forgot that she was even in that for a second.
It's definitely J.J. Abrams, and you can tell because it has that like, oh my goodness, like you're just so enthralled in the plot, and then all of a sudden they aliens.
Yeah,
where did the aliens come from?
Yeah, that sounds about right.
Why are we here? How did we get here? Oh, J.J. Abrams. Ah, okay.
He has not to stick the landing. He's one of those guys too. Like J.J. Abrams sometimes hasn't even gotten enough crap for that. Will introduce a lot of interesting ideas and never pursues them in earnest, or just decides he just gets like so into one thing, and then he gets into something else. It's like, well, what about that other thing we were talking about that you said you kind of hinted to was super important? He just goes off another tangent.
Not really important.
Oh, okay, cool, bro. So no, I mean, great storyteller just has those cadences that can get a little annoying.
And the last one,
did you guys go for it?
The last cameo. Did we talk about Captain America?
We did not. We did not
mention Captain. Okay,
yeah.
So
yeah,
EJ and I obviously we watched the movie together, and we did exactly what Deadpool and everybody else in the theater did, which every single one of us was 100% sure he was about to say, "Avengers Assemble." And when he said "Flame on," I had the biggest smile on my face because I loved those movies. Again, they're movies that I haven't revisited in a really long time, but I'm very confident that if I were to watch them now today, I would not hate them. I would probably still enjoy them because I remember watching them younger and really enjoying them. This is how much I enjoyed them. I don't know if I've shared this story on the channel before, but my very first email was Torched 129, and the reason why it was that, a lot of people thought it was because I like smoked weed, which I didn't, but I realize now why they maybe went down that road. But the reason why it was that
is because,
because Chris Evans, Johnny Storm, in the film buys a red Ferrari, and his license plate on that, I think it's a Ferrari, a red Corvette, whatever, red sports car, and the license plate was torched.
Yep.
I absolutely love the Human Torch, and my very first email was a nod to that. So when Chris Evans said "Flame on" and flew up in the air and ignited on fire, I was very pumped. That was a very cool cameo, and they did a perfect job. And then, of course, the cutscene at the end was exactly what I thought it would be, which is something that has nothing to do with anything other than something funny, just like every other Deadpool end credit scene has been. But it was like the perfect joke to be like, hey, let's pull up the video here. I need you all to know what actually happened. Very, very fun.
I just did that here. I just did that here with ourselves,
We 100% did that here.
Exactly.
We didn't even know we were honoring that film, even though, we were just living it out. Kind of, wow, that's crazy that we did that.
Yeah.
No, I was
Sabretooth. So many cameos.
What I'll also just piggyback on, Josh, is that we all have wondered whether some of the legacy Avengers would come back, the OG guys. And obviously, we're going to talk a little bit more about that later on. But Chris Evans was able to play this character much different than he did Captain America, which was something that's very important to do if you're playing another character but being the same actor, right? Because you don't want to give too much of a, confuse the two because they're not the same character. They're not. So I really appreciate that in particular. And it got to kind of see Chris Evans' comedic side, which as Captain America, not that Captain America was not funny, but he wasn't the main comic relief of that.
No, he was the straight man to Downey most of the time.
Yeah, exactly. So to get that side of Chris Evans was kind of cool, in my opinion. That was really kind of interesting to kind of delve into that. Dieter, cap us off here while we talk about the next big thing about Marvel that happened in Comic-Con. Give us final thoughts on.
Yeah, I mean, 8 out of 10. It was a great movie. It was a fun time. It had me laughing, and like I said in my spoiler-free review, the message of this movie is one that I think, as comic book fans and comic book movie fans, we are obligated to pay attention to, which is be respectful of the work that these people put in, and every character deserves their story. Every character deserves their time to shine, and every character deserves to have an ending, which I just think is a really, really great story. And I think it's a lesson that probably some of the people signing checks deserve to hear as well, because there's nothing, as a fan of shows like Firefly, there's nothing worse than when a show that you like doesn't give you a satisfying ending because someone up above said no, it doesn't warrant it. I don't know. That's my thoughts on it. It was a great movie. It made me feel things. Logan's whole thing about wearing the suit because it's the only thing that reminds him that he is an X-Man. There's a lot of like meta commentary and stuff in there about, I guess, kind of Hugh's feelings towards X-Men as a whole. And it made me feel the good feelings. Also, we didn't even talk real quick. I'm going to mention, shout out to Emma Corrin. I saw a lot of people saying that they were a very, very weak aspect of the movie, Emma Corrin as Cassandra Nova, and I disagree completely. I am a huge fan of the Grant Morrison X-Men run, as I am a fan of all things that Grant Morrison has done, basically. And while it's hard to imagine the older version of Cassandra Nova from like E is for Extinction saying some of these lines, it felt very consistent to me how kind of offbeat and off-kilter and dangerous Emma Corrin felt. Paradox, honestly, he was weaker to me as a villain than Cassandra Nova was. But yeah, Cassandra Nova was an absolute delight, and we would be doing this movie a disservice if we didn't mention that.
Absolutely. Real quick,
I like that they had those layers to it, because I agree with you that Cassandra was definitely the more menacing and really the actual villain of the film, in my opinion. But I think what Paradox offered was the kind of comic relief, right, with the banter between him and the other characters. Because whenever he's on screen, you're never intimidated. You're never like, you know, there's that kind of comic relief aspect to it. And
for sure,
I thought that it was balanced well. So we have, you know, villain A, big problem, unhinged, like gonna be a problem, and then you have villain B. They're there to kind of move the plot along and explain how villain A could be where villain A is.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, he's the perfect actor for me. Went from snarky middle management in Succession to snarky middle management in Marvel. So I think that's
was he from Succession? That explains a lot.
Yeah. He's also Mr. Darcy, one of the originals back in like 20, 30 years ago.
Gotcha.
Yeah, no, I think the last thing I'll mention real quick, because we do have to move on. Love the Ben Affleck shout out in there when they were talking about Daredevil getting destroyed by the storm, and then Jennifer Garner's like, "Oh, it's okay," you know, just mentioning basically they got divorced, kind of meta joke there. People that didn't catch it, I thought that was hilarious, and I think we haven't even talked literally enough about Girl Wolverine here. Seeing her all grown up in her role was so super cool. Laura,
you can just call her Wolverine. You don't have to say Girl Wolverine.
I like specifying. It's like saying like Batgirl or whatever, you know, just kind of.
For what it's worth, Laura is in the comics. She is Wolverine now. She's been holding on to the title of Wolverine since, I want to say, since Wolverine died back in like 2015. And then even after he came back and they moved into the Krakoan era, which I'm gonna do a video about that, like probably early next year. I'm gonna do a Krakoan era video. She's been
Wolverine. for sure. But the biggest thing that we want to get into here is that Marvel didn't stop there by giving us a banger of a movie. I know you guys don't like mentioning it, but it is closing in on $820 million at the box office. First movie to do that in Marvel since Guardians of the Galaxy. So it looks like it's going to pass and maybe hit the billion that they want. It's important. It's important still from that perspective.
I'm sorry, do you own Disney stock?
No, it's as far as what's going to continue. And I can't disclose to you whether I own or not own Disney stock, but you never know. At any rate, Marvel didn't stop there. They really wanted to up the ante a little bit at Comic-Con, like they always do. And what did they announce, Josh? Tell me what they announced.
They announced, or we're just going to jump right in. Okay.
Yep, let's do it.
RDJ is back, and he is Victor Von Doom. I thoroughly enjoy Doom as a villain. He is one of, if not my favorite Marvel villain. I have a video on our channel about him. Feel free to check that out.
That's true.
It's I'm a big fan of Mr. Doom. So here's the deal. As far as my feelings on it, I think that bringing RDJ back is something that's been rumored. We've been talking about it. It's not a huge shock that he's back. It's a shock that he's back in this way. I have heard two schools of thought. I have heard number one, easy peasy. He's a variant, right? He is a Tony Stark variant in an alternate universe where Tony goes bad. So he creates evil Iron Man and AKA Dr. Doom. I am not a fan of that personally. I feel like that is very difficult to pull off because you're talking about the foundation of this entire cinematic universe and the fact that his death and the impact that had when we saw that as fans and the funeral and the aftermath, like everything that we've seen. I mean, Tom Holland, Peter Parker, his journey afterwards and the whole passing of the mantle kind of that they were doing there. I don't really like this first school of thought. I don't know that I'm going to be able to like see that and be like, yep, that was handled seamlessly and it's great. It's also, and not that he's not up to it, I think he absolutely has the acting chops for sure to do this, but he needs to be a completely different person, right? Because he was such an incredible Tony Stark. Now he needs to be somebody different. He can't just be cranky Tony Stark or Civil War Tony Stark, but turned up a little bit. He needs to be Victor Von Doom, but he needs to be very different. The second school of thought that I have heard is that it's not that he's a variant. They just cast a different actor for a different character, or the same actor for a different character.
That is also what they were saying at the panel. Whether or not that's true, I mean, and Marvel has been known to lie or at least mislead, but that is what they're saying, is that it's going to be option 2. It is not a variant situation. Right.
So I've heard that, but I'm just listing off, here's the discussions I've heard. It might be this, it might be that, regardless of what they've said. And as we know, we've been told things and those things end up no longer being true. Or, we were told the title of a movie and then something happens with one of the people that were supposed to be in that movie. So they changed the title of said movie and some of the people that may or may not be in it.
Hi, Jonathan. How you doing?
So,
free my boy.
So, yeah, the second one I think has its difficulties as well. But again, it's the same difficulty that I mentioned before, where it's like Robert Downey Jr. has a really difficult task ahead of him. He needs to wipe our minds of what we know of him in this cinematic universe. The fact that he's in other projects, like Oppenheimer, like he's a different character in that for sure. Great film. He does a really good job in it, etc. I just think it's a very tall task to build an entire franchise with this guy starting it, him being the foundation of it, killing him as a huge, end to his chapter, his book in this universe, to now bring him back as someone else, I think is going to be difficult. I'm very excited to see how they do it. That's my thoughts on it. How about you guys? How are you feeling about the RDJ news?
Why don't you give us your thoughts,
I said this in a private chat with some of our friends. I'm old. And I have 2
Are you going through something, Dieter? Dieter, are you going through something?
I am having a midlife crisis.
You mentioned that quite a bit on this call.
Here's the thing. I have 2 choices. I can either spend the next 2 years worrying about how things are going to play out with Robert Downey Jr. Or I can just say, okay, that's what they said they're going to do. We'll see. And like, let's be honest here. This is not the craziest thing that a comic book related situation has done. Like, comics are always trying big swings. Like, remember that time that the X-Men started a whole island ethno state? Pepperidge Farm remembers because it was 5 years ago. Like, if they're gonna take a big swing, great. I'm all for it. I will reserve judgment, and I will try not to think too hard on it until then. The one thing I will mention is I was having a conversation with a friend of mine who was kind of I don't want to misrepresent him, but I would say he was a little bit offended by the fact that they cast Robert Downey Jr. And it's not for any of the reasons that a lot of people on Twitter have been offended, because there is that whole conversation of Doom is a character for whom his Romani heritage is fairly significant. Why are we not casting a Romani actor? This is the second time that that's been the case, because also Elizabeth Olsen is not Romani. I don't want to get into all that because I'm not nearly educated enough on Romani culture and that sort of thing. But he was offended for a different reason. He said, the thing that really bothers me is when you look at how the Marvel Cinematic Universe started, a lot of the people that they cast were relative unknowns. Jeremy Renner was basically unknown. RDJ was coming off about 8 years in Hollywood purgatory. Hemsworth and Hiddleston.
We couldn't even insure him.
Yeah. Hemsworth and Hiddleston, both complete unknowns.
From soaps in Australia.
Yeah, Scarlett Johansson, she obviously had a solid career. And Chris Evans was not an unknown, but certainly nowhere near the level of success that he's at now. And fast forward to today, and our big casting is Robert Downey Jr. It's like, they could have chosen, they had a blank canvas, they had a blank slate, they could have chosen anyone. And they decided to go for RDJ. And the reasons why they may have done that, we can speculate, was it a nostalgia thing? Do they actually think he was the best man for the job? There was no one else who could play him. But it does kind of make you think, why wasn't it somebody else? Why was there nobody else who could have been Doom besides Robert Downey Jr.? So that's where I'm at with it.
Yeah, and I'll close out with this before we go to our next topic. Yeah, I have some of the same thought process, and if someone else had done it, I think it would have added. I think it would have been cool to see someone else's take on it. Invite someone else to make one more iconic character, right? We've already seen RDJ do it before, so why do we need to see him do it again? But think of the emotional core these movies could have with RDJ being Doom, right? They're saying he's not a variant, which we'll believe it by now. Let's say if they recognize there's something similar about him or something like that, or the anchor characters they're talking about now, the anchor beings, right? This could play a very interesting part in this universe.
I don't think we're going to hear the phrase anchor beings again in any of these movies. I think that was just some BS they came up for to make Deadpool work.
Maybe. We'll see. Kevin Feige said that they're going to play with the concept even more. We'll see if Kevin's being honest about that. But no, I think it's going to be very interesting to see how they pull it off. I think the biggest win here is not RDJ, but the Russo brothers. The Russo brothers, when it comes to ensemble films, I believe are probably, when it comes to superheroes, are probably the best in the business. I don't have any problem saying that. They've had the most difficult jobs to do. They've kind of, I haven't seen a Russo brother film in Marvel that I've been disappointed in. I really haven't. Like Winter Soldier may be my personal favorite Marvel film of all time. It might be. So I'm really excited to see them come back and kind of do things.
People who know a lot more about film studies and directing than me generally tend to pretty much despise the Russos, at least their original projects like Gray Man and everything like that. But I do think they were kind of the perfect directors for Avengers, because the Russo brothers got their start in television. Their most famous project prior to Avengers was their work on Community, which was a show that by the nature of the kind of episodes it would do, would require them to practice doing homages and pastiches of many, many different film styles and techniques. And so I think that makes them uniquely perfect for being directors for Marvel, because
also the dialogue, like the team aspect, you know, because like the way Community is set up, it's obviously there's a lot of differences, but you get a group of strangers in a room, right? And they're a study hall, and they interact differently, some better than others. Like that whole concept that they sort of string together very much, especially when you're trying to bring these heroes with all their different baggage and etc. together and try to get them to get along and be a team.
Yeah.
It's a damn shame.
And so I think they are kind of perfectly suited for an Avengers movie. I'm perfectly happy to have them back.
Nah, fair enough. So we have a lot to look forward to in the next couple of months, and even in the next year. Especially, it was Agatha all along. She's gonna get her show out very soon. Real quick though, let's talk about the competition. The boys over across the street, as Deadpool kind of mentioned. DC didn't do much here because we're still kind of doing a reboot of that universe. I will say the Caped Crusader. I don't know if you guys checked that out yet. On Amazon, that is fantastic. It gives you animated Batman animated series vibes. Oh my god, it's so good. I'm lost in it right now. It's 20 minutes per episode.
Would you say that you're biased at all, or?
No, I think that I have always been able to give Batman fair ratings. I've never, said that. I mean, the worst thing he's done is the rubber nipples. That's terrible. But I just want the honest review. Your honest review is that it's really, really good. Like, it's best of your ability, really setting your biases aside. Oh my goodness, it's so good. Is
it true that Bruce Timm is still on his whole Barbara Gordon, Bruce Wayne shtick?
A little bit, but Bruce Timm and Matt Reeves combined with this. So Bruce Timm, who basically created the animated series back in the 90s, and Matt Reeves, the director of the Batman, combined on this. Come on. We know this, guys. We know this was a match made. We know this is beautiful. I'll speak about it later, but I just have so many thoughts just welling up. I just can't get into it. But as promised, me and Dieter had a little bit of a disagreement because the biggest thing that DC did as a studio, so they released a logo. They did get a trailer for their first official project, Creature Commandos, which is going to be interesting, I guess.
Looks cute.
Basically,
I'll check it out.
It's a spin on Suicide Squad. I think that the biggest thing that James Gunn's universe is going to have an issue with is that they're doing similar things that the old DC did. They're bringing out unknown projects and not big names to kind of support the universe. I think that's going to be interesting to see if it's going to actually work. But the biggest thing they did there is they changed the logo. I thought the logo was kind of mid. And I will show you the DC logo, right? Real quick. Dieter loves the logo, and I'm interested to see.
It's a masterpiece.
I'm interested to see why he loves it. Right? Like what about this logo? And I'm going to pull this up here real quick. Let's see here. Let's see the DC logo. Yep, there we go. And you could do this for the first time, Josh. Pull up this whole.
I mean, I could do it for you.
Yeah, my computer's doing some weird thing because it just updated itself. Yeah, go ahead and do it for me then. New DC logo. Actually, never mind. I got it. There we go.
Perfection.
There it is. The DC logo.
Now show us the old one.
I think it looks kind of. Oh.
We got to compare. Go back and forth.
True. So what it was before, that was back during the Dark Knight days. This is the one it was before.
Yeah.
This is what it was during the Dark Knight early 2000s. This is what it was before, and now this is what it is now. I think it looks too cartoony. I'm just not a big fan. I don't think it matters that much. Like, not going to die on that hill. But Dieter said he's going to die on that hill, so I'm going to.
I'll die on this hill. So
go for it.
I will be the first to admit that this is my nostalgia kicking in, and I've got 5 minutes, so I'm going to make this quick. This logo is an old logo from DC's. This was the logo that DC Comics used from 1976 up until 2005. It is a classic. And what this logo represents to me, outside of just the fact that like this is the logo that I grew up on, this is the logo that the first Batman comic I ever bought that was on it. Setting all that aside, this logo to me is a promise. This logo is a promise from James Gunn to all of us that this new studio is not going to forget its roots. Because we've been having some issues lately in the world of comic book movies, particularly with Secret Invasion, where we've had creatives telling their cast and telling their actors, don't read the comics. We're not worried about the comics. And I take that personally. I am here because of the comics. I love the comics. The comics are your writer's room. And they deserve to be lauded. And this is something that DC has been doing better than Marvel for the last couple of months, and it needs to be mentioned. DC is remembering that they are a comics company that has been lucky enough to be able to transition their medium into movies. That's why they just released a new Superman Legacy collection that has a whole bunch of Superman stories for new people, for people just coming in. That's why when James Gunn did his announcement of his Phase 1 for DC Studios, every single thing that he mentioned, he was like, and here's the comic you should read if you want to know what's inspiring me. And this is continuing and reaffirming that promise that this is about the comics, this is about the stories that you love, and this is we're going to have respect for that, we're going to honor that, and we're going to bring that to you. So yeah, that's why I love this logo. And aesthetically, it is the most classic DC Comics logo of all of them. I just sent you a picture of all of the DC logos, and you cannot tell me that one's not the best.
Honestly, I think it's because I grew up in the era of the Dark Knight. I like the one from 2005. That's the one I see. I'm like, DC.
The Dark Knight came out in 1980. It would have had the 1976 logo on it.
2005. I'm talking about the movie. So I like that logo. That's my favorite. Not even the last one they did, but that's okay. That's fine. I know you guys. We are gonna have to wrap up because tomorrow we do kind of work. But real quick, I want to go to Josh real quick because I think he'll have some really interesting ideas about this before we close this out. Josh, James Gunn does have a very not enviable position of kind of having to do something different, right? Just something different with DC as a whole. It's something different from Marvel as well when he brings out this new universe. What do you want to see from DC that you haven't seen before? And what do you think he needs to do to be successful?
So we've brought this up so much, but let me give you the really short version. I want to see the Bat family. I've said this before. I will say it again. I want to see the Bat family. I want to see them all. I want to see Dick, Todd. I want to see them all. I want to see Nightwing. Tim. I want to see Damian. I want to see Tim. I want to see every last one of them. And I feel like they keep teasing us. They keep on being like, hey, this guy's name is this. This name sounds familiar, right? Okay, well, he's not going to do anything but be a cop.
Hey, you see his suit in the corner there?
Yeah, hey. Like there's all these little nods and tidbits, but it frustrates me because I want to see the whole shebang. Here you go. I'll pull that up for you guys. So these are all the DC logos, and so I think I want more Bat Family. I want it now, and I also, if James Gunn does that, I think he will be successful because I think it's the best thing to build off of. And with the Rogues Gallery and everything that Batman entails, that's the route you need to go. I agree with you, Dieter. Before you have to go, I need you to know I agree with you. I also thoroughly enjoy this logo. And I had the same exact thought as you, where when I saw it, because the first comics I ever owned were DC comics. I owned many DC comics before I ever owned my first Marvel comic. I obviously, Spider-Man's been my favorite forever, but I just didn't own the comics
Not according to some people, Josh.
Young,
remember at our visit, some people outed you as a Batman guy.
Yeah, but they're wrong though. They're wrong.
The people that
people can say whatever they want. It doesn't make it right.
He liked Batman. And I was like, oh, really?
No, they definitely didn't say I never liked Spider-Man. They said that I stood on a table and said I'm Batman while I had a towel around me when I was 5 years old. And as I explained
5-year-old
then,
hasn't done that?
Exactly. And as I explained to you then, and I'll explain now, I had a towel. Of course I said I'm Batman. If I had web shooters or silly string, I would have stood up on that table, sprayed the silly string everywhere and said I'm Spider-Man. Or when I was in the pool, I would stick to the side of it like this.
Oh,
and say,
always.
I'm Spider-Man.
All the time.
Yeah,
I still do that.
Yes, of course.
We were just picking up a little bit because I was saying he's actually a closet Batman. I think he likes Batman a little bit better than Spider-Man. He just doesn't want to admit it yet. But that's okay. You know,
why would I not want to
reveal?
No, you can't come at me like that. Get out of here. Don't make me
real quick
to
close us out. And I know, Dieter, you have to go soon, but I would love to ask you this question because I think it's interesting. Obviously, as we talk about this universe and how it's coming together, one of the things that they criticized the old universe for, particularly Batman v Superman, was introducing a lot of DC characters at once, not letting everything breathe, going up to Justice League. Well, in this new movie with James Gunn's Superman, right, the first big one, you're going to have a lot of superheroes, right? You're going to have Mr. Terrific. You're going to have Hawk Girl. You're going to have Lex Luthor. You're going to have, it seems like they're going to really focus on the family over at the Daily Planet. Is it by its very nature a bad thing to include all these characters at once, which it's hinted that we're also going to get a Supergirl cameo, or maybe she'll be in it to a certain extent. There's just a lot going on there. Is that by nature a bad thing, or is it something in this instance we're dropping ourselves in this world where superheroes already exist? It's kind of a soft reboot anyway, because apparently Viola Davis's Amanda Waller is going to be in Creatures Commandos. Don't know how that's going to work, but whatever.
Yeah.
Right? We'll figure that out. What are your thoughts on that?
We gotta wait and see, because James Gunn has made it clear that he's aware of these potential pitfalls and seems confident that he's found his way around them. I do think it is kind of a little nerve-wracking to see all these characters being shoved into the first Superman movie, but I'm gonna reserve judgment, because I do think James Gunn has earned our trust. Over the course of 3 Guardians movies, also the Suicide Squad, he knows how to make a good comic book movie, and he knows how to work with large casts and introducing lots of disparate elements. So he gets the benefit of the doubt until the movie comes out, and then I'll judge.
Fair enough.
No, fair enough. Yeah, well, thank you guys all for hopping on and having this conversation with us. We the whole time had about, what was it, 9 or 10, at some point 14 or 15 people following us.
I don't check the box
I
office
wasn't even
numbers.
looking.
You don't check the box office numbers.
I wasn't even looking, but hey, welcome if you're here. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, I just want to thank everyone for stopping in and people who are going to watch us in the future. We love you guys. We can't wait to put out some more content, and we'll see you guys soon around the Nerds Table.
See you later, everybody.
Bye.
Proof.